First play, we're going to go through the Raiders' entire season, strictly just looking at their offensive line and just a year in review. So starting with this very first play, going to be a simple stretch to the right. Cool. All right, so looking at this play, we're going to review from right to left. Two tight ends, right formation. They're motioning Henry Ruggs across to the right. Josh Jacobs in the backfield. You have Josh Jacobs in the backfield, and he is going to be running a stretch to the right side, this direction. You have Darren Waller, Jason Whitton, Trent Brown, Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson, Richie Incognito, and Colton Miller. Quarterback is Derek Carr. Playing against the Carolina Panthers. So in this look, you have what nominally looks like a 4-4 front. Now, this is a 3 linebacker set, 4 down linemen. This is a corner right here on the right side, but it looks like a 4-4 given that this is also the safety. You have one high safety, and you have a corner over there. So with this play, I mean, it's a better run-ish defense. I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all. When run right, it runs great. When executed poorly, you have a problem, though. So just going from right to left, looking at the front side blockers and just evaluating them. So Darren Waller and Jason Whitton. Darren Waller is going to be kicking out pretty much the first thing outside. So theoretically speaking, like Henry Ruggs is really trying to draw the motion and try to draw this corner, draw the safety, trying to draw the entire defense that direction. Because what really should happen on this play is there should be the play goes to the right and then it cuts back inside. All right, and that's how it's supposed to. It doesn't always work that way, but when run correctly, you have really good results. Ideally, the gap that gets hit is the gap that's inside of Darren Waller and the D gap. Darren Waller is going to try to block out. Not the greatest technique in the world, but he functionally does his job. Jason Whitton is going to be working with Trent Brown. Now, what he's trying to do is they're going to be kind of exchanging. I mean, there's a lot of different terms for it, but basically, you have a double team sort of front side that is going to allow the tackle to ultimately take over this C gap / D gap defender, and allow the Jason Whitton, the front side tight end, to work up to the front side linebacker. All right, so that should create, in theory, a lane to allow at least Brandon Jacobs to have a one-on-one matchup with this corner right here if this corner doesn't keep running with Henry Ruggs. All right, which should get you a pretty good gain when run correctly. All right, so if we back up a little bit, you'll see that Trent Brown doesn't really gain ground with this step right here. And then he also comes off very high. Now, the problem with this is not gaining ground and not doing that kind of puts you in an unadvantageous position to where this defender is going to basically just fight one person instead of two. Jason Whitton is trying to help him out and trying to bail him out because he's really trying to work the front side linebacker, but he kind of can't because he's not really getting a lot of help. So, putting it back in regular motion, if you look at Jason Whitton's technique, Jason Whitton is trying to play smart football, and he's trying to like really set him up for this frontside linebacker block because it's not as important that he gets there immediately as much as he takes care of this frontside down lineman, and then if he works up to his linebacker, because as long as the linebacker is pretty much in this space, he can be handled. If he flies out, perfect. If he hangs around inside, then he's definitely Jason Witten's problem 100%. All right. And again, like Trent Brown really needs to get over, but he doesn't really do a good job of getting his head on the other side. He doesn't do a good job of getting his shoulders, really the rest of his body doesn't come off very well, and it doesn't really result in very much on the play, as you can see demonstrated here. Side to the alternate gap, which, good instincts by him. That's otherwise what he's coached to do. Now, looking at Gabe Jackson, he comes off of his stance. His first step is not forward. He doesn't gain ground with his first step. It is a stretch, and he does otherwise want to get on this outside shoulder. But really, given the way this play goes, and if this uh, this down lineman, this 3 technique right here, if he wants to stay in the front side, then what Gabe Jackson should be fighting to do is to help him on his way. Keyword should. But ideally, he actually gets on the other side of his hip because, again, that's where the play is actually supposed to go. All right. Well, the D lineman attacks him. He doesn't take a forward step. It doesn't really set. It's not a very advantageous position. His head's on the other side. His hip's not quite. He doesn't really gain a whole lot of ground, and it ends up working out to where the 3 techniques sort of just maintains B gap leverage, which is part of the reason why Josh J. Why I keep saying Brandon Jacobs. It's part of the reason why the running back ends up cutting back on the inside, which again, good on the running back for recognizing that and seeing it. The center, Rodney Hudson, he knows that the nearest technique to him on this play, as far as like where the play is going to go, he knows that that's that frontside 3 technique. Now, ideally, it is a situation where you have right tackle and tight end are working to the frontside linebacker. So if this defensive lineman goes out, Trent Brown goes up. If he stays in or Trent Brown get on the other side, tight end goes up. Similar concept right here, where right guard tries to take over this block as much as he can. Center helps him out and then works to number 54 here, the backside linebacker. That's what should happen. But and actually ends up working that way inside, which is again creates another backup lane. Trent Brown again never really committing and trying to get outside, and he doesn't really finish that block, and looks like he probably hurt himself on this play. And turns out he actually did. We'll get to that in a moment. Richie Incognito, he opens up his hip, tries to come off the ball, and he's going to try to seal the inside 2 technique, or 1 technique is really what he's more look like. Inside shade of the guard, that's a 1. So the tackle, Colton Miller's, them 2 are working together, and they're working for the backside safety. But really it's not that the backside end is not going to make the play, but if you're going to really pick one to worry about in this situation, I'd be much more concerned with the backside safety filling this gap, because that's also a cutback lane, whereas the end, theoretically, if he sniffs the play out, this play's dead to rights no matter what he does. But he's a wide enough technique, and it's first play of the game, so the backside otherwise does their job. So Richie Incognito actually does a good job of trying to set him up to get sealed, and it's really working them to the backside B gap defender, which is the safety in this case. The defensive end is coming in scot-free, but the play develops in such a way that he otherwise wouldn't have been able to make the play had the play have gone the way it was supposed to. But because he had to cut back where he did, he came completely untouched, and he was the one who made the play. Now, this look right here by the left tackle, right guard, center, and right guard, this is actually pretty solid football. This isn't ideal because he didn't really gain ground. This is just the right tackle's just unsatisfactory. That also makes the tight end look bad, and the play ends up not really coming to fruition. It is what it is. Live to see another play, and we move. Next play. Out of shotgun, tight end, 2 tight ends. You have a 4 down lineman, 3 linebackers, just regular 4-3 set. It's pass play. Takes a shot downfield, and actually not the worst decision in the world, but not the greatest either. Is what it is. Sorry, now we can really look at pass pro. Again, we're going to go right to left in terms of pass pro responsibility. All right, let's look at this. Look at big Trent Brown. So Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller are going out in routes, and Josh Jacobs is as well. Now, as far as kick slides go, there's a couple of schools of thought when it comes to kick sliding and blocking. All right. The conservative school of thought is you always have super duper perfect technique, and you're always squared. You have your shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage, knees are bent, chest up, chest up, back tight. You're bending at the knee, not the hip. Feet are in a good athletic position. Your weight is over your inside, the center line of your body, inside thigh, or maybe your left testicle, depending on who your coach is and what they'll tell you. Your head is looking in the right direction, and that's how that's supposed to go. Now, this move, there's a level of practicality that comes with playing football, and given that this guy is lined up head up over the tight end, he's a 6. It's because the numbering goes 0, shade, 1, 2, 3, 4 I inside of the tackle, 4 on the tackle, 5 outside of the tackle. Don't ask me why the numbering is what it is, but it is. Then you have a 7 inside of the tight end, 6 head up on the tight end, 9 outside of the tight end. That's the numbering system. I didn't make the rules. I just follow. All right. So if you have basically a 6, a dude who's just coming very wide, all right, you can turn your shoulders a little bit. You can open up the gate a little bit, but a lot of that really depends on timing and just how savvy of a veteran you really are. All right. So he doesn't take a huge kick here, which honestly, not the worst technique in the world. Like, not the worst decision in the world. His feet do come inside. That is not good, in my personal opinion. But, okay, fine. He is bending at the waist. I don't think that that's good, but okay, we can let it go. The defensive end is going to continue to try to rush outside, maybe get a piece of the tight end, and he sees running back coming to his side, so he could be thinking screen immediately. It is possible. That's just how players are coached, especially on that level. As soon as he recognizes it's not the case, Trent Brown needs to reset his body and reset his feet. And he never quite did. Now, this defensive end knows that he's not going to just run through this guy. I mean, that is 320 plus pounds of dude. Actually, he's probably way more than that at this point in time. So he's not going to just run through him. So instead, he's going to just run around him. But the quarterback is making a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-step drop in the shotgun. So that means the launch point is pretty deep, but it's behind the right guard. So that means if you're a tackle, you have to always, as a lineman in general, you always have to keep in mind where the launch point is. And you never want to turn your shoulders too much because you do give a two-way go. Because if this guy was a savvy pass rusher, he would just shuck inside, or he would continue his path like he did. And Trent Brown opened his shoulders too much and basically allowed this defensive end to be in his face as he's throwing the ball. Now, he got the ball away, and it really wasn't consequential this time, but that's bad habits, and for all intents and purposes, it's bad habits due to laziness more than it is due to anything. That's just my assessment. All right. Now, right guard. He is going to be blocking this one technique. So this is one level of critique that I have with a lot of linemen. This is something that isn't universally coached, but general rule is you don't want to loop your hands. And the reason you don't want to loop your hands is because it is a good way to get flagged. Now, it doesn't really happen as often as maybe it should, but it is something that does occur. So general rule, you want to have your elbow in and your thumb up. And you really want to hit on the inside frame of this lineman and block him there. All right. What Gabe Jackson does on this play, he takes away the inside. It takes away the inside rush, which actually is football smart because he is a one technique, so he has to take away the inside. That is good football. Taking away the inside is the center and guard, center and right guard. The center is looking to the backside linebacker blitzing, which means usually the hot route or whatever is the frontside linebacker. So if Tahir Whitehead, the frontside linebacker, just decided to blitz, the quarterback would have to just get rid of it. Throw it to maybe the safety valve route or what have you, whatever the check down route is. All right. That's generally how that works. And if Josh Jacobs wasn't going into a route, he'd be picking up the frontside linebacker. Or if the quarterback thought the frontside linebacker was going to blitz, he would tell either him or the tight end to stay in. That's generally how blocking schemes work. Now, Gabe Jackson does a decent job of taking away the inside. He does loop his hands, which I don't like, but when he does when he does get his hands inside, he engages and extends his hands. All right. He extends his hands. He tries to reset, get his weight under him, and tries to neutralize his rush, keep him more or less at the line of scrimmage. Mind you, the line of scrimmage was right on the hash mark. So he managed to keep the guy pretty much at the line of scrimmage at the start of the play. All right. If you progress a little bit further, he does cede a little bit ground, and he sees a little bit ground on the outside. Again, that's not too far outside of what any offensive lineman is coached to do. The biggest critique I have of him isn't so much his hips or his feet or his pad level, but really his hands. Because this is a good way to get called for a holding, especially if this defensive lineman really try to rush to the outside. He could actually get called for a holding. All right. Rodney Hudson at this point, the center, is already committed, and the backside linebacker, he decided to help wherever he needed to. Center's just trying to find work. Not really much to say. He's just trying to help out the guard. Richie Incognito looks old because he's old, but he does do the football savvy thing. He has a 3 technique. Now, the only danger of this specific type of footwork as a lineman is that if you give up too much ground here, you can set yourself up for inside rush, and that is a bad move. So what you really want to do, don't move too much, maybe give a little bit of ground, and just make sure you're in front of the guy, but always have inside leverage. Now, I'm not in love with his hands either, because he doesn't so much loop him as he does kind of go outside. Again, that's all I see, at least with his left hand, I can't really see his right hand from here, but that's just my critique. But he does extend. He does try to get his weight under him, and it works out great because he ends up getting help from the center. So for all intents and purposes, he does his job. I would like his pad level to be lower. I'd like him to have a better aspect on the defensive lineman. These are all things that I would like, and I would rather coach. But you take the wins you can take. So be it. Colton Miller, he initially sets for the defensive end. Now the defensive end gets knocked off his rush by Jason Whitton, which again, savvy veteran move. Which is part of the reason why this ends up look like a failed stunt. But actually helps out the tackle a little bit. And as Jason Witten is just running out for his route, so Colton Miller steps inside because the only threat really is the 3 technique at that point. And then as soon as the defensive end actually comes and rushes his normal grab, he's already got good inside leverage. But the biggest critique far and away, hands. Good Lord. Those are outside, and that would be a holding damn near any other time. He does reset his hands. He gets his left hand on the inside, and he should try to beat his right hand, but you take what you can get. He's not turning his shoulders too much, unlike Trent Brown, which completely opened up the gate. His feet aren't perfect, but they're decent. Otherwise, decent pass pro by that guy. And roll Tide, right? Next play. Next play, shotgun. Looks like a 4-3. Another pass play. And incomplete. Okay, cool. All right, right to left. All right. Now, someone who's played offensive line and who's seen this done a few times, I'm not going to lie to you, this is triggering. This is very triggering. And if I was his coach, I'd be ready to fight him if I saw this on film. At no point in time, at absolutely no point in time, this is unsat. This is unsat. This is ridiculous. He is a whole-ass professional offensive lineman. I don't give a how good you think you are. That is bullshit. This is bullshit. I don't know who Whoever the hell taught this man to pass block by stepping with his inside foot backwards, just like a regular backward step. Whoever taught him that that was okay, somebody snitch on that man, and we need to call him out and roast him on Twitter or wherever, because this is bull. I'm sorry, like this is unforgivable. Like this is beyond lazy. This is just bad. Everything about this is bad. His demeanor is bad. His stance is lazy. Like I'm sorry, this is unbelievable. Who is this man? Jesus Christ. And then his lazy ass steps backwards, edge rush, decides to just actually rush and says him. And here he is, turned around completely, 5-step drop, and instead of him pushing him deep upfield, that maybe you could justify it, here he is looking right at the quarterback on his dominant side as he's about to make a pass. And lo and behold, he was able to somehow, Derek Carr being a decent athlete, Trent Brown getting enough of a piece of him at the last second because he was fucking lazy. Derek Carr being a decent quarterback, decent athlete, keeping poise in the pocket, stepped up and just tried to get rid of it. Could he have made a better throw? Sure. Could he have done a slightly better decision? I don't really know. But it's a whole lot easier to make a decision better when you're not on the run because you have a defensive end literally in your face. That's just my calm, objective opinion. I'm entitled to it. This was fucking lazy. All right, Gabe Jackson. As we look at Gabe Jackson, he's got a one technique. It's going to be, I believe he's got a one technique. Now, instead of kicking out, what it looks like the protection scheme is such that I don't really know what the protection scheme is because I'm not really sure why you would have backed up like that. But you know what? It really ended up not really being an issue. I personally wouldn't have done that because I feel like if this was called however they call it, because left tackle and left guard, left tackle has a guy outside of Jason Whitton is a 7 technique in this case. Sorry, is a 9 technique in this case. Not a wide 9, but a 9. And there's a 3 technique who's like in the gap, but he's a no 3 technique. So that's man to man on the left side. On the right side with the 1 technique, in my eyes, just from what I've seen and what I've dealt with, that would be the guard's man and the center would be helping. But maybe the Raiders' protection on this play worked a little differently because it looked like they were anticipating this linebacker to rush, which he only stepped up because the tailback decided to go out for a route. All right. But when you look at Gabe Jackson, loops his hands, which I don't really like. He does step back. He does keep decent pass pro, kind of expecting an outside rush. But as soon as he realizes the guy's just coming straight at him in the gap, he immediately neutralizes his rush, gets inside of him, and gets a good piece of him. And for all intents and purposes, that's a pretty good block. Pretty decent pocket up front. All right, good play, and gives the quarterback enough room to step up because even though Trent Brown f***ed up, and this defensive tackle thinks he's going to be an athlete, tries to do some J.J. Watt shit, and he's definitely not J.J. Watt. It ends up working out. Now, this is a trend I've seen throughout football at really all levels. When the interior linemen, they just kind of give up on the rush and they effectively somewhat spy the quarterback. I'm not saying it's the worst technique and the worst move in the world, but it is something that works in some cases, so they just do it. I think they're just lazy, but that's just my opinion. Center and guard, right guard and center, cool. All right, Richie Incognito, he does kick out. He's kind of expecting a more of an edge rush on this play, like the 3 technique is a B gap defender, and he's attacking the B gap pretty hard. So he does kick out, trying to meet him rather than just waste his time and just try to figure out where he goes. Okay, savvy veteran move, fine. It'd be cool if his feet moved a little bit better, but he does eventually get his base under him, kind of. He does get walked back a bit much for my liking, but he just continues to scrap and continues to try to fight. More power to him. I guess his head, he doesn't really get him off of him. His hand is on the outside. That's Richie Incognito's hand over his over the defender's right shoulder. Um, it's not perfect. It really isn't very good, and that's part of the reason why he ended up losing ground, because he did get kind of beat inside, at least with his hands. Um, and you wouldn't really have to. And the easiest way to deal with a bull rush, is far and away, is getting your hands inside and just getting inside leverage. You can neutralize any bull rush by doing that, but you need to get inside leverage, and you need to sink your hips, and you just need to fight, and you need to dig. You have to be you have to be ready to meet fire with fire, so to speak. All right, left tackle, coming off a little bit timid, trying to do the hand of God thing. Now, in his defense, if I saw the three technique coming at me on my inside like that, like Colton Miller did, I'd be more concerned that that'd be more of a twist, some type of a stunt, where the three technique would end up trying to slide out, and the defensive end would try to rush inside. That's a very normal thing, and based on the pre-snap alignment, I understand why you would see that. So, otherwise, decent kick out. He what the hell did he do with his hands? So his hands get beat initially. He resets his hands. It ends up working out. He actually maintains good leverage. Like overall, solid. Like the defensive end still kind of bullies him back, and they're battling for leverage. He never really got an extension, so that's why they're kind of doing the chest to chest, face to face. That's why they're not looking so hot. This guy's not rushing, so they're not really dealing with anything. And Trent Brown, Jesus Christ, just throw the whole tackle away. That was fucking ridiculous.